Hello, I'm Christine, and it's time for the stories I ate. Stories I ate this month.
Off the hook, but the phone never rang. Beast on the beats, no claws, no fangs.
It's May 2018. I did read stuff in April, despite having a deadline. And I watched quite a few movies. 8 movies, 1 TV show season, and I read 3 books. I read 3 books. Let's get right into it.
Off the hook, but the phone never rang.
Starting with our April Explosion Book of the Month read, which was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. It was a reread. This is my favorite trilogy of all time, and it was such a joy to reread Clockwork Angel. The audiobook has its quirks. It was decent, it was good, but it wasn't amazing. There were some voices that kind of just threw me off because I've read this book twice myself already. I like the voices that my head does for everyone best. But obviously, I still really enjoyed the book. With audiobooks, when I'm rereading, usually I can do lots of things. But I couldn't have Clockwork Angel on when I was doing lots of things because I wanted to concentrate on every word and write stuff down. And so a lot of times I would just be sitting on my bed listening and writing stuff down. And it also really reminded me how long it's been since I read this series and how much I've forgotten. Like in the live show, people were asking questions or talking about things like overarching plot lines, and I've forgotten people's names, I've forgotten storylines, I've forgotten stuff, and I hate it. And I have to reread this entire trilogy now because I hate feeling like I'm not in the know anymore. Like this is always something that I've been an expert on, and it's just been too long, and I hate it. It's time for a full reread, and it's happening. This obviously gets an A+ from me. The first movie I watched this month was Ready Player One. This is an adaptation of a famous book that most people have read. I haven't. I wasn't overexcited for this movie because the trailer made it look like something that I wouldn't necessarily enjoy. I did have fun watching it, but I had a lot of problems with the script. To me, it felt very childish, and I'm thinking like, this is basically, it is an adult book. It's geared toward adults. There's so many references from the 80s. The target audience for this was people who grew up in the 80s and 90s. And I just felt like we kind of shafted the story of the creator of the Oasis, who was the most interesting part of this whole ordeal. I feel like the relationships in the movie were very underdeveloped. It was just like, it went from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. Like all of a sudden people are in love and they're saying all these cheesy things, and it's like, literally you just met and we haven't had any interactions that feel deep and meaningful enough to have developed these feelings at all. Just a lot of the dialogue, I was just like, who wrote this? It felt more like a kid's movie. Ready Player One gets a C- for me. The next book that I read this month was actually more of an essay by Lauren Graham, and it's called In Conclusion, Don't Worry About It. I didn't know that it was an essay when I bought it. I saw the audiobook on Audible, like in my recommended. I was like, oh my god, Lauren Graham has a new book? Immediate buy, because I read her last book, Talking as Fast as I Can, via audiobook, and I loved it. But In Conclusion, Don't Worry About It was 28 minutes long. Like, it was a half-an-hour audiobook, which is just the shortest thing in the history of the universe. And when I downloaded it was that short. I was like, wait, what? And she explains it once you start listening to it. She did the commencement speech for her old high school or her old university. Dang, I can't even remember anymore. But they liked it so much that they asked her to publish it. And she was like, okay, I'll publish it. I really enjoyed it. It made me emotional, and it just made me feel better about everything in a time where I was really stressed out. I definitely recommend it if you can find this audiobook on a different app where you don't have to pay for it. Or if you want to get the book and support Lauren Graham and all that. It's just an uplifting, heartwarming pep talk, basically, and I really loved it. It gets an A from me. The next movie I saw this month was A Quiet Place, starring John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt, directed by John Krasinski. Most of you will know John Krasinski as Jim from The Office. I love Jim from The Office. I was just so proud. Jim from The Office has a huge movie with this amazing concept. If you saw the trailer for this movie, you know that it just kind of knocks you off your feet a little bit. Like, the concept itself was so good that I was so worried that the movie wasn't gonna live up to the concept. I really loved the film. It lived up to the hype of the trailer. It definitely gets an A. I rewatched The Martian this month. I just had this intense craving to rewatch The Martian when I was writing and I needed a break. And I had the best time. When I first saw The Martian, I liked it a lot, but I remember just being disappointed because I had just read the book and I loved it so much and they had cut out so much. You know, the typical book to movie adaptation syndrome where if you just read the book, you're really upset about everything that didn't make it into the movie. But watching it now, oh, I had so much fun. I really loved it. It just reminded me how much I love The Martian in general. Mark Watney and just the snark and the passion that went into his survival. If you haven't read The Martian, I highly recommend it. I have a book talk for it. And if you haven't watched The Martian, I also highly recommend it. also gets an A. I also rewatched The Incredibles because The Incredibles 2 is coming out soon, and I really didn't remember much about The Incredibles. I forgot how cute it was and how clever it was. I still don't like it better than Up, but it was really, really great. Incredibles gets an A too. I got my wisdom teeth out in April, so there was a whole week where I watched Gilmore Girls with my mom, and we watched all of season 4 and half of season 5. I figured I'd just throw it in here, let you know that you should watch Gilmore Girls if you haven't yet, because it's spectacular. Lauren Graham is my favorite. The more I watch Gilmore Girls, the more I appreciate Lorelai Gilmore. Lorelai Gilmore is one of my heroes. I also rewatched Winter Soldier this month, which I didn't see in theaters, but I watched in 2014, like on my computer, and I didn't really remember much of it. And there's a lot of important stuff in there in terms of moving forward throughout the Marvel movies and understanding everything and feeling like you're in the know. And so I rewatched it, and it was much better than I remembered. I mean, I still don't love it because it's a darker film. It's just not as fun, and it doesn't have as much humor in it, and that's something that's really important to me. Like, it was really well done and really great, but it's just not my favorite. Like, I'm gonna give it a A-, but I'm glad I rewatched it. Oh, I also rewatched Captain America, the first Avenger, the first Captain America, which I hated the first time, and that's the only time I watched it. So I also kind of forgot everything that happened in that movie, and I'm glad I rewatched that before Infinity War as well. I'm gonna give that one a B. I originally would have given it probably a C-, so it bumped up in my head. Another one of these nights I rewatched Jumanji, which was so much fun. I bought the deluxe edition with all the extra features. I got to watch this awesome gag reel with Robin Williams, and he was just so great. Oh, Jumanji gets an A+. Definitely watch Jumanji if you haven't yet. I think most people have seen Jumanji, like the original Jumanji, but since the new Jumanji came out, I don't know if there's like a whole new generation that's just seen that one. Please go watch the original with Robin Williams. It is excellent. Like, the lines in that movie are so ingrained in my head, I would just find myself saying them right before they did. And the other book that I finished this month was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. This was a very different book for Colleen Hoover. Our lead character is significantly older than the lead character in a lot of her other books, and she's going through much more adult issues that I haven't read about. It was really fascinating and interesting for me to be in this woman's head. I really, really enjoyed it. It was definitely one of the sadder Colleen Hoover books. Like, on the scale, it's really up there in the sad section. This actually is an arc. It comes out in July, and I did record a book talk already, so you will get a book talk about this book when it comes out. I can't say much else except that it's a really beautiful story. There's so many lines in it that really have stuck with me. When ideas stick with you like that and you think about them weeks afterward, that's when you know a book has really affected you. I'm gonna give All Your Prefix. Why do I keep saying prefix? Did I say prefix before? Oh, you're perfect! I definitely gave it a grade in my book talk, so you'll see it there. And last, the final film I saw this month, I saw twice, and that is Avengers Infinity War. I loved this movie. It was fantastic. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I turned on the camera and talked about it for hours and hours while I was on deadline, like right before my deadline. Like, I shouldn't have been doing it, but I made it in a video. I made a whole review for it, discussing it and my theories and all my favorite parts and like my favorite jokes and everything. So I'm gonna link to that below. If you haven't watched it yet, please check it out. I spent a lot of time on it, and I give it an A+. Honestly, I was blown away. It was so good. It was everything I wanted it to be. I was really nervous because there were so many characters, and I thought they were not going to be able to juggle so many big stories, but everything was fantastic. This is going to go down in history as such a feat. I have an entire review discussion. If you want to talk about it, please let's talk about it. Link in the description below. That is all the stories I ate this month. That was a decent amount. I thought I wasn't going to get that much done because I was writing all month. You know, I need my breaks, and usually my breaks consist of watching something. I'd love to hear what your favorite thing that you watched or read in April was. My favorite story I ate this month is probably Infinity War. If you have any thoughts or feelings on anything I talked about today, please share. I'm Christine. I make videos every Tuesday. If you click the little bell below, you'll be notified every time I post a new video. I'm at xtinemay on Twitter and Instagram. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!